Moving on, if one phrase could appropriately summarize the current Afghanistan situation, it would be out of cauldron into the fire. The humanitarian crisis that anyway prevailed before the Taliban assumed control of the country has gone further downhill. It's chaos and cries all around. Widespread unemployment, unprecedented displacement, and brutal human rights violations at gunpoint are today's normal in Afghanistan. The Taliban, who promised a civil, democratic administration, has clamped down on freedom of speech with severe high-handedness. Have a look at all of it in this report.
Braving an increasingly fearful atmosphere, a family wearing white shrouds, a traditional funeral wear, took to streets in Afghanistan's capital Kabul, demanding employment for hundreds of thousands unemployed workers. While this act would have been hailed in a democratic system for standing up to policies and failure of government, it's nothing like that in Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. The family, including the children, is behind the bars. And this is despite the poverty and hunger index worsening by the day in a country that is already suffering from drought and the COVID-19 pandemic. Thousands of Afghans are trying to flee their country every day from Zaranj, the smuggling capital in Afghanistan's Nimroz province, due to unemployment, poverty and uncertainty. Hundreds of families, including women and children, are waiting in restaurants and motels to get the chance to cross the border by a smuggler.
از بیکاری از همه چی به خاطر ایران روان است. دیگه با 10 نفر از این مرز همیشه مجبوریت میکنم پس میخوام برم به ایران. دیگه از اونی که طالبان اومدن نه کاری است نه جدباری است. اصلا دولتی معلوم نیست که چی رقم دولتی است که باید دولت حکومتداری کنن. اما چیزی هم که از جیب مردم است اونم میکشه برای خود میگیرن. مردم گشنه و زار ضعیف مانده.
Half a million Afghans have been displaced in Afghanistan in recent months. The number will grow several times if the health services, schools and the economy, which are on the verge of collapse, break down entirely. According to the United Nations, nearly half the population of more than 18 million people in Afghanistan require aid assistance to survive, while conflict and insecurity have displaced more than 3.5 million, with nearly 700,000 people uprooted this year alone. And while the unemployment has dipped to a historic low, the limited ones who have their businesses running are barely making their ends meet.
سابق کار بسیار خوب بود، کارا پیش میرفت، بعد مال بار میکرد، هر رقم مال که میبود خلاص میشه، دیگر پیسه 5 تومن خشک میبرم. شما فکر کنید دینار ما بار کردیم از کلی کراچی 2000 افغانی رو ما سودا نکردیم. تا 2000 افغانی بعد 400 500 زیر ما خرج خانه بردیم، فعلا صبحی نماز خواندیم کیلوی 90 افغانی ما گاز پر کردیم.
The future doesn't look bright, with most of the international donors freezing their assistance after the Taliban swept to power. Afghanistan also faces economic problems such as a cash liquidity crisis. A $606 million flash appeal launched in September to assist more than 10 million vulnerable Afghans is less than 40% funded. People are clueless as to who they should approach to get their issues resolved.
چه قسم عدالت است، چه قسم مسلمانی است، چه رقم پشت غریب غربت میگرده. ما کجا گفت مرد کرایی بیاریم، ما بگیم مرد داریم. ما کنه 4-5 فامیل هستیم، کل ما بی سرپرست هستیم.
And these are those tangible issues that are directly affecting the day-to-day lives. Rest of them, including a dwindling women workforce, strict imposition of Sharia, and a wide-ranging curb on fundamental rights, including the freedom of speech, have not even gathered enough traction owing to the crisis of food and shelter. The UN Human Rights Council has agreed to appoint a special rapporteur on Afghanistan to probe alleged violations and to maintain a spotlight on the country, especially on the rights of women and ethnic minorities living under Taliban rule. Critics call it a symbolic measure. And with hundreds of thousands of them already living under abject poverty in hostile conditions, the fears of the worst humanitarian crisis exploding out of the situation could come haunting quicker than the experts predict. Exactly like the Taliban's swift Kabul capture in a matter of days.